Okay, awesome. So this presentation, this meeting is being recorded. Welcome everyone to the Nutritional Download. This is our every so often chat about different nutrition topics with myself and then with Sierra. Go ahead and wave, Sierra. Sierra is my student assistant. And today we're talking about eating during the holidays. Kind of like today is in November. It's actually the week before fall break. However, when I mention, just know that whenever I mention holidays during this presentation, know that I mean any holiday throughout the entire year. Regardless of what your cultural or religious identities might be, because so much of the holidays in general for anyone really means a couple of things. It means maybe gatherings, and it also means food. And because food ties so much in with cultural identity, that's one reason why we're really just talking about ways and tips that you can really embrace the holidays and honor your hunger during them as well. So we're going to have a short presentation today, and then we'll go into a couple of other things. So welcome. We're happy that you're here. My name is Kallen Augusted. I'm the registered dietitian on campus here with ISU Dining. And you can find me on my Instagram account at ISU Dining RD. Most of the time I take a picture of my lunch. I eat in the dining halls just like all of you. And so sometimes it's hard to figure out how to make a balanced meal from all of the different food options that we have. And so that's what this Instagram account is really for, to kind of show how to make meals from the menus that we have in our locations. So like I mentioned today, we're going to be having a short presentation that I'll kind of take you through. We'll have a Q&A discussion time. So really put any of your questions or just topics that you want Sierra and I to maybe chat on in that chat box. Sierra will be the one who is checking that, who is moderating that chat box, answering any of the questions in there, as well as bringing some of those common questions to us so that we can talk things over on this recording and through this presentation. And then after any question and answer time, we'll really kind of open it up, simply because we know that a lot of you might have questions outside of what the presentation today might have included. Okay, so a couple of just housekeeping things that I go over with every presentation that I do. These are three main parts of my food and nutrition philosophy as a registered dietitian. So number one is all foods fit. All foods fit in the balanced diet. You can make everything work for you. And if you're having issues with that, then reach out to myself, reach out to another dietitian, and we would love to help you work on that. Another part of aspect of my philosophy is that health is cumulative. And what I mean by that is the behaviors that you're doing right now, you're a freshman, sophomore, when you're in college, it becomes your habits that you have maybe when you are in an upperclassman in college, or maybe when you are in your mid-20s and in the workforce, as well as in your 30s and in your 40s. And so working on some of these questions related to food, nutrition, body, health, all of that stuff, working on that now in college will help you set up and have a firm foundation for success later on in life as well. So that's what I mean by like health is cumulative. And we have great resources here on campus, usually for free for you students to be able to start kind of this journey and really have that solid foundation for you. And then kind of the last part of my philosophy is that food is meant to be enjoyed. We'll be talking about this during this presentation today. And so if you have questions about that, just hold your horses and we'll talk about it in just a little while. Okay, so kind of what we mentioned is we have 7 different tips or tactics to really honor your hunger throughout these holidays. And so the first one that that we'll be touching on today is not to skip meals. This also includes if you are one that usually has a couple of snacks throughout the day, don't skip snacks either, or try and like save food or save calories for later on, unless it's related to a particular religious or cultural practice, like fasting for a particular holiday in that realm. And the reason for this, for not saving that unless it's part of a religious or cultural custom, is purely because of our body's circadian rhythm. And so what that is it is our body's time clock. It's the clock that tells us it's time to go to sleep, it's time to wake up, it's time to eat. And our circadian rhythm also works with our body's natural metabolism. And so what I mean by our metabolism is sometimes we think of it as in it's just like something that you lose when you like get older or in your 50s or something. But that's not what our metabolism is. Our metabolism is just a fancy thing inside of our body biochemically that actually is the reaction that takes the energy from our food, from what we eat, and turns it into the energy that our body can use to power all of our cells, our tissues, our organs, and everything that our body needs every single day to do all the awesome things that our bodies does. So when it comes to not skipping meals or snacks or food or anything like that, that's really just to fill up our fuel tank. So when I talk about metabolism, that's kind of like the fuel tank of our body, right? When we are in our cars or vehicles, we have that fuel tank or we have that battery or whatever that is, but we do sometimes see it like go ticking down, and pretty soon it needs to be recharged, it needs to be filled up, and our body works the same way. If we're running on an empty fuel tank or one that hasn't been filled up recently, it's going to be sluggish, it's going to be tired, it's not going to work super great. Same thing with a car or with something else that has a slow battery or that has a low fuel tank. It's going to not just work how it's supposed to. And so that's where eating consistently really, really helps our bodies with making sure that that fuel tank is full, whether it's through meals, whether it's just a top off, like a snack. Those all help to increase our energy throughout the day and also helps our body to have a consistent rhythm when it comes to feeling hungry, feeling full, and when it's time to go to bed. So when it comes to like saving things for later, anytime that we save food or save calories or anything like that for later, that's a kind of restriction. Whether a restriction is purposeful or not purposeful, restricting food can often lead to cravings. And if we don't listen to those cravings and listen to our body, that's where we become extra hungry, and then we might like eat a whole lot and not feel super great afterwards. So like the meme shows, no, like not eating food. Allow yourself to eat the food that you want and then just move on. Be okay with it. That is totally okay. Right. So kind of tactic number 2 is to give yourself permission to eat the foods that you crave. Regardless of the holiday that you are celebrating, there can be times where it's like, oh, you only have this one certain food on that particular celebration. That's awesome, and allow yourself to have that. If there's any challenge with foods not being good or just that they might be forbidden, anytime that something like a type of food or specific food in general might be forbidden or bad or something like that, it causes a psychological response to rebel against it. So anytime that we categorize a food as in something that we can't have, it's forbidden, we're not doing that, automatically there is an innate sense within us that actually says, nope, that food has more power than you. And so that leads to that rebellion and then potentially binging on that food. And so really making sure that all foods have equal power, are equal, it lessens the power that any forbidden or special foods might have over us. And so this really brings in like the enjoying of all of the foods that we have, eating all of those foods, not restricting any of them, because especially if it's something that you only have during a certain holiday or when you are with certain family members, that can make it even more special during the holiday time to really enjoy that food. Going along with that a little bit is honoring your hunger. And this relates, and a lot of these tactics that we're talking about today relate to the intuitive eating principles. And so honoring your hunger is intuitive eating principle 2. And the one thing that I always ask every single student or client that I'm working with is, what does hunger feel like to you? Because I know what hunger feels like to me, but I don't know what hunger feels like to you. I'm not inside of your body. I don't know what that feels like. And hunger is an important thing for each of us to know what it feels like for us. Hunger is a normal bodily function that comes to us from a hormone reaction. We have a specific hormone that tells us, time to fill up that fuel tank, time to get some food, some nourishment in us so that we can do all the things that we're supposed to. If someone doesn't have hunger signals or aren't sure what those hunger cues feel like to them, that can sometimes be commonly related to either disordered eating or enzyme deficiencies or other hormone deficiencies or other conditions like that. So if you are struggling or you know of someone who might be struggling with recognizing what their hunger signals feel like to them, reach out to myself, reach out to another dietitian, and we can definitely help you navigate some of that because it can be tricky. But again, hunger is a normal thing that all of our bodies are supposed to feel, we should feel, because that is the cue. That is the gas tank alert sign to fill back up your gas tank. That is what our hunger cues are for us to fill that up so that we can get some good energy to do all of those things. And really getting in tune and listening to those hunger signals, let us trust our body and let our bodies be the guide. Okay, number 4, reject the diet mentality. And this also relates to intuitive eating and is principle number 1. So what we mean by reject the diet mentality is normalization of all of our differences, right? Each of us are completely different human beings. Even identical twins are different because they might have one class that's different, whether it is genetics, whether it is our culture, whether it is the environment around us. There's so many things that make us different. And so we should normalize that and celebrate that. And when it comes to normalization for food as well as our bodies, that's so important for our overall health. So when it comes to normalization of food, that's what I mean, going back to part of my principles as a dietitian, all foods fit. There's no good foods, there's no bad foods, there's just food. They all fit into a balanced diet. We can all allow ourselves to have that pleasure from all of the food and really just fostering that environment for an inclusive food environment within us. When it comes to body normalization, one's body weight, shape, or size does not equal anyone's worth. That's so important with rejecting the diet mentality. Like, regardless of how you show up to any of these holiday celebrations you are, regardless if your body changes during any time of holiday season, it doesn't matter. Like, our bodies will adjust, and really listening to our bodies, really listening to that, reaching out to a professional like a dietitian can really help to build that trust back in, as well as make sure that these times are enjoyable for you. Our world, and especially our culture, is so obsessed with diets and do this and not this and fitting everything inside this little box. And that's not how the world works. That's not how we work as human beings. And so really it's about dismantling our diet-obsessed culture and making sure that we are focusing on healthfulness instead of diets. Okay, number 5, savor the flavors and enjoy the food that you're eating. This goes along again with intuitive eating principle 5, which is the satisfaction factor. And food satisfaction is super important. We actually, like I mentioned, for hunger, we have a specific hormone for hunger to allow our body to feel that. We also have hormones in our body that tell us when we're satisfied with the food and the meals that we eat. And that's super cool to me. That also shows that, again, food is meant to taste good. Like what I mentioned with one of my core principles and philosophies as a dietitian, we are meant to enjoy the food that we have. That's also one reason why we have certain majors on this campus, food science and culinary science. A lot of food scientists are made to create new products, but also make them taste good, make them edible, make the texture feel nice when we're chewing them. And so food satisfaction and enjoyment of all this is super normal, and we should be enjoying our food. Also, when it comes to the holidays, again, there's all sorts of different flavors to really embrace, whether it's from cultures or traditions or anything like that, even if it's just a different flavor that you usually have around a particular holiday or holiday season. Really enjoy that. Bring in some of that pleasure, some of that enjoyment from the food and from the different flavors that you might be experiencing. So item number 6 is food is more than fuel. So we talk about food a lot, especially with that fuel tank analogy. But again, food is more than that. Food affects other parts of our life, right? So our life externally affects how we eat, what we eat, why we eat, and all of that. But also food affects these other parts of our life too, like our culture, like any memories that we have being associated with a certain food or a restaurant or anything like that. Maybe it's like when it comes to memories, like birthday cake, that's very, very common in a lot of traditions to have some sort of cake or something for birthdays. That's just part of that memory, or maybe having your same favorite birthday cake every year on that celebration. Same thing with family traditions. A lot of families during any holiday time might have specific traditions that they have related to food. Same thing with different religious identities. Might have different foods that they particularly focus on because of what religion or what holiday they might be celebrating as well. Food also brings in so much connection with others, right? So often food is a big part of holidays, but also gathering with loved ones, whether it's friends, whether it's family, whether it is your neighbors, whether it is your community, whatever it might be, that connection with others can become part of that food environment as well. And so really making sure that you are enjoying all of these other aspects of the holidays besides just the food that really creates the entire atmosphere of that enjoyable time that we're having. So regardless, again, of what culture, what religion, or celebration that you are having, whether it is some latkes and jelly-filled donuts, maybe it's some lutefisk, maybe it's whatever it might be during this time, mince pies, whether it's, Yule log, if your culture is related to France at all, like all of these different things are part of our cultures, and all of our holidays look different. And that should be embraced. All of us have different flavor memories or things that's why we eat a certain food at different times of the year. And so really it's enjoying that, embracing that, and celebrating with our loved ones. And then the last tactic that we had for you today was feel your fullness. And again, this relates to intuitive eating principle number 6. Just like hunger, hunger comes to us from a hormone. Same thing with food or meal satisfaction. Fullness or feeling full after a meal is also a natural bodily hormone response. So feeling full, right, is actually just short for being fulfilled or fullness that we're having from a meal. Again, what hunger feels like to some people, it varies. Same thing with feeling full or feeling content after a meal. And so really listening to your body, recognizing, where I'm at. You can kind of see the scale that often can be used to help to gauge where we're at with our hunger and fullness. Are we feeling satisfied, or are we feeling like totally satisfied? Or maybe we overate a little bit and we just need to take a little bit of a pause for some digestion to happen. All of these things are really important for us to become in tune with our body and to be able to recognize, like, we're supposed to feel full. Sometimes I get a lot of students and clients that come in and ask me, they're just like, oh, I don't like this feeling because I feel bloated. Like, well, bloating is also a normal bodily function that actually just happens during digestion. Our intestines just push water in to help it to swish around with our food in there, to push the water out and absorb more nutrients, just to absorb more good stuff from the food that we're eating. And so bloating is even just a normal bodily function. Same thing with feeling full, feeling our stomach, which is like right underneath our left rib area, feeling that satisfied and full is really important for us, again, to fill up that fuel tank so that our body can do all of the things that it's supposed to do. And eating throughout the day, again, and having and being aware of when we need to fill up that fuel tank is important for our body, just to know that, like, it's got fuel to run on. That blinker isn't flashing saying, fill me up, fill me up, fill me up. That's hunger. So when we feel that fullness, really feel and honor that fullness, because that is a sign for our body to be like, I got you, and we will keep you full. We will keep you fulfilled so that your brain can work, your lungs can work, all of these other things, so that you can just enjoy your day and not have to worry about food anymore. So I always like to end any of these presentations with this quote. Ellen Satter is a dietitian that did a lot of research when it comes to food enjoyment and family meals. And really, it says, when the joy goes out of eating, nutrition suffers. And the main reason for that is for all of the other tactics and points that we made during this presentation so far. Food is so much more than just the nutrition. And so bringing and making sure that that joy is still there when we're eating, when we are celebrating any holidays with our loved ones, is really important, because then we're able, and our body is truly able to enjoy the whole thing. And we're able to become like medically and like nutritionally nourished, but also our heart can be nourished as well from the enjoyable times with our loved ones. So thank you for tuning in and joining with us. This is the end of the presentation, and now we really will wait for a couple of minutes. Go ahead and pop any questions that you might have in that chat box, and Sierra will be able to moderate that, or we'll be able to just contribute to the conversation and have a really good discussion right now about anything that we talked about, as well as maybe anything else that's on your mind.
Okay, Kallen, are you ready for some questions?
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
There's some
people are
already?
popping here. Yeah, well, people are popping in their questions into the chat box. We do have some questions to get started here,
Okay.
if that's okay. So the first question is, how can I prioritize nutrition and healthful eating during this time of year while still choosing to eat unhealthy foods that I crave?
That's a great question. So really kind of going on with that satisfaction factor and that rejecting the diet mentality. So it can be really difficult to really normalize all of those foods. So what I really encourage people to do, especially like during any holiday time, is honestly just what I encourage students to do even now in the dining center. for meals, try and focus on maybe having like 2 or 3 to 5 of the food groups. That way we get some food variety, maybe some fun colors, some different textures of foods, but then also making sure and allowing yourself to have a sweet tooth or to have a treat or whatever it might be that you might be wanting at that time. Whether it's an extra serving, whether it's some pie, whether it is some cake, whatever it might be, making sure that you allow yourself that and also listen to your body. Sometimes when it comes to treats that happen during the holiday season, again, maybe it's that one thing that we only have at this particular holiday. Let yourself have it, because if you only have it then, again, that's part of that like not purposeful food restriction, but allow yourself to have it, savor it, savor those flavors, really enjoy it. Maybe if you're really full after a meal, wait like a half an hour or something until you're able to enjoy it even more without becoming overly stuffed or you're feeling uncomfortable afterwards. Do you feel like that answered the parts there, Sierra? Did that work
Yeah.
okay?
Mhm.
Okay.
And I think too, variety is really important just because we do as a culture just focus a lot on restriction, and we always think of health as being on like two ends of a spectrum. So it's like, oh, I'm overeating, I'm unhealthy, or I'm undereating, I'm unhealthy. And there's all this area in between that we kind of forget about when it comes to nutrition and health. So I just think it is important to know, like, to practice that variety, listening to your body, and things like that. And instead of focusing on what can I restrict to be happier with the meal that's in front of me, maybe think about what can you add to the meal. What if you feel like, oh, I think I need to be getting more vitamins into this meal, or it just doesn't feel healthy for what that means to me. Maybe think about ways that you can add certain foods that taste good and that you want to add, instead of thinking about what you should be taking out of a meal too. So
For sure. And also, like, sometimes during this time, it's important to think that, like, food and, like, the nutrition part of being healthy, health and well-being is so much more than that. Like, is your mental health being taken care of? What about the like social aspects of our health? Again, being with family, that like spiritual side, if it's a religious related holiday, like those are other parts of our well-being, that also make a huge difference for our overall like health. Food is just one small portion of it. And also, like, health isn't a moral thing that people actively have to be working towards. Everyone should be treated with respect regardless of that. And so just keeping that in mind too, that like this is a holiday or a special time with your family. And how often does this happen? Especially, now that the pandemic is starting to simmer down a little bit, and maybe we're able to enjoy holidays with our family. That's something that should be enjoyed more and taken in these other aspects of our overall health and overall well-being, besides just thinking about like the food.
mhm. Okay, so we've got a question here. So it is, what if I am craving high fat and high sugar foods all the time? Should I be eating all of these foods that I am craving? And where do I draw the line between listening to my body and practicing healthy habits?
That's a great question. So, I would encourage this person to maybe reach out to myself or to another dietitian, because if someone has these intense cravings for high fat, high sugar foods, that signals to me that maybe there might be a little bit of confliction between normalizing and including these types of foods throughout the day. And again, some of that, like whether purposeful or not purposeful restriction. Whenever we have an intense craving for a certain type of food, that's often when we might have been previously restricting that food before. And so if you feel like that's a little bit scary, a little bit nerve-wracking to include some of those foods throughout your day, maybe it's, including something that is higher in sugar or carbohydrates or fat or whatever for a snack, or having it like every day for lunch, because just that routineness of it will take that power away from the food, will normalize and neutralize the food, and then put you more in control and being aware of, yeah, I can have this, I can allow myself to have this. And then really reducing some of that shame or that any judgment that you might feel. Again, sometimes if we are eating a particular way or restricting a particular food, there might be some shame or some guilt or anything like that as well if we do eat it. And so if you are feeling that way, that's something that I'd love to chat with you more about at a later time, because there might be some individual things that we can work on in general. But overall, if you're having some of those intense cravings, try to integrate them into your day with your meals, with any snacks, to really try and like equalize and neutralize those, so that you're not potentially restricting them anymore. Anything else to add to that, Sierra?
I think that it is hard just to, if you've been in a restrictive mindset for such a long time, it is hard to learn how to trust your body because you might not even know like where to start with that. So that's why it is really important just to talk to a dietitian if you don't even know where to start. Like, what does hunger feel like? If that's your starting place, and that's your starting place. And trying to incorporate some of those foods, but also knowing that it does take time, and it takes like dedication and commitment to intuitive eating. Because it's not just something that can happen in a day, it's your whole relationship with food that has kind of shaped how you practice eating. So it is important to me with a dietitian to address some of those things. So yeah.
And with that, like, we do have to remember that hopefully there's more people who are watching this than not that are still intuitive eaters, and that's just how they eat, because that's what eating should be. It's intuitive, just like thirst and sleep and going to the bathroom and like all of those things. They're all intuitive. It's just purely from these like body signals and hormones and everything. But for those of you that had some of these questions of like, what does hunger feel like? Like, how do I know? Like, these are some questions that meeting with someone directly one-on-one can be more tailored to you and what you might be struggling with and where you might be kind of on this journey.
Perfect. Okay, so we have two more questions that I see. So the third question is, do you have any recommendations for someone who is surrounded by people at their dinner table who are constantly on a new diet or commenting on what they are eating?
Yes. Oh my gosh. It sucks. It sucks so much. Like, I have felt this for so long with my own family. And so, yes, it is hard. It is so incredibly hard if you are at a family gathering, or potentially even if you're like, I don't even want to go like see this like aunt, uncle, extended relative, because of that anticipation of like uncomfortable like diet talk around the table. And so if that does happen to you, or if you wind up yourselves and or find yourself in this area where people are just talking about food not being healthy, or like, oh, I need to like lose all of the like holiday weight, like whatever it might be. Again, that's all bogus. Bodies are meant to change throughout time. One holiday gathering and meal isn't going to make a difference. Some different tactics to go with that is, cut them off and be like, well, I'm enjoying this pie. Just being like, hey, maybe instead of like talking about this, we can actually like talk about how we're doing, because again, like maybe you haven't been able to celebrate a holiday with any extended family or with this large group of family for the last year or so. Like, hey, let's like not talk about superficial things and actually talk about like how we're doing, like what's going on in our lives, like what have been some like awesome milestones at work or school or other family activities. Like, let's talk about maybe like some more meaningful things instead of like, whether someone should like have an extra slice of cake. Because in the grand scheme of things, what's the purpose of that conversation besides just to like increase that shame or that guilt or that perceived shame or guilt. And let's just like enjoy the food. You also can just be like, hey, depending on who the person is, like if it was like my cousin, for instance, being like, you're having like some more, another piece of pie, I'd be like, yeah, it tastes good. You can just leave it at that. Throw it back at them and be like, wait, you haven't? You haven't ate grandma's piece of pie? Like, you don't know how long that we're gonna have this. Like, you can throw it back at them. That's okay. And if you get to a point where it's just too much diet talk or food talk or body talk at the table, excuse yourself. Go to a different room, go on a quick walk outside. Like, you can definitely do that to make sure that you are taking care of your whole entire well-being. Anything to add, Sierra?
Well, family dinners can get overwhelming anyways without the diet talk, so it's never a bad thing to take a walk or just maybe just even like changing the conversation. I think there's a lot of simple ways that you can kind of reframe the conversation without causing chaos in the family at the dinner table.
Maybe
Yeah.
some of my answers were a little bit more chaos causing than just like, let's talk about how so and so is, young cousin is now in band, like band practice or whatever it might be. Like, yeah, definitely just like completely change the topic. That's
Yep.
totally.
Yep. Okay, so the last question that I see is how can I encourage others to practice intuitive eating during this time of year or anytime during the year?
That's a great one. So honestly, sometimes the best one is about the conversations that we have and also some of the like social media accounts that we follow. If a friend maybe mentions something, be like, oh, I like follow this person and they have really awesome stuff. There's a lot of like, look up the hashtag intuitive eating on TikTok or Instagram or like whatever it might be, whatever platform you're on. And there's some really good other like dietitians who are content creators on there that might be a great way to kind of introduce the subject to them. You also can definitely like dive in a little bit more and actually get the book. So Intuitive Eating is actually a book. Go for the latest edition. It's kind of like a greenish blue on the cover. But you can look it up, Intuitive Eating. The website is Original Intuitive Eating Pros with Elise Rash and Evelyn Tribole. They're two dietitians that kind of like that wrote the book and really like started and coined some of these terms that were common in the dietetics practice. And so, reading the book, having some discussion, meeting with myself or another dietitian on campus or another dietitian in general who works as an intuitive eating dietitian can be a really, really great place to start. We also, so student wellness here on campus, they do have a couple of self-guided online courses through Canvas that also focus on intuitive eating or principles like it. And so the one specifically on intuitive eating is called, the course on Canvas is called Joyful Eating. And you can sign yourself up. It's self-guided. There's really no like assignments. There's just reflections when learning more about some of these principles. So that also might be a great place to start since it's self-guided. You do it on your own time. And that if you maybe you're bored over fall break or over winter break or something, that might be a great thing to do to kind of start that conversation. Whether it's you and some friends, you're going through those discussion questions together, that might be a great place to start when supporting other people with this new idea when it comes to food and eating in our bodies.
And Evelyn also has that new book. I think it was released this year. It's like 365 days of intuitive eating. And so there's like a new prompt for every single day that you can practice. So yeah.
But yeah, that book, I still need to get it, but it sounds super interesting, kind of like a journal prompt every single day with working through the intuitive eating principles. Awesome. Anything else come through yet, Sierra?
No, I don't see anything on my end, but definitely reach out to Kallen if you have any questions over email. And then also we're always taking like if you have topic ideas that you want us to do, definitely send those our way so we can hopefully work on something for those topic ideas that you guys are interested in.
Yeah, because Sierra, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're planning on in the spring of 2022, we're planning on doing at least two
Mhm.
or three different discussions for the nutritional download, just like this. So if you have any ideas, or if you've tuned into a couple of them, but you want us to like really hone in and focus in on a particular question or discussion that you have, let us know. We'd love to hear it. Any final words, Sierra?
No, I think that wraps it up. I'm not seeing anything else. So,
Okay, awesome. Well, everyone, thank you so much again for joining us today. If you're watching the recording at a later date, thank you for doing that as well. And we're just really glad that you were able to be here, and reach out if you have any other questions. Bye.